on this October the 16th. I am Pastor Carrie West. I'm serving Sunrise Church and the Pueblo West Pueblo community. And this morning brief, what I try to do is add a little bit of thought to what our scriptures are going to be in service, like what my sermon might be about, but what I can't really dive into too deeply in the sermon. So this is just a brief to kind of give you a little tease for what's coming up in worship today. So I grew up in the era of, Sesame Street, the Electric Company, and the Muppets. And I loved Kermit the Frog. And I'm just thinking about his song that he would sing, "It Ain't Easy Being Green." We're not going to talk necessarily about being green today, but I do think that today's scriptures really lend to the idea and the truth that living as faithful disciples of Jesus ain't easy all the time. Rarely do we read, or if at all we read, that having faith in Jesus or being a Christian in today's world is supposed to be easy, or that it is easy. We've not been promised that. What we've been promised is that in hard times, God is always with us. Jesus is our brother, our friend who walks with us, and the Spirit will always be here to remind us of who we are, whose we are, and what we are to do. And oftentimes it is not easy to follow Jesus. It isn't easy to think differently than the rest of the world thinks, or the worldly ways, doing things differently than the worldly ways. Today's scripture is going to be one of those passages and one of these times that we enter into scripture, and it's going to make us more uncomfortable than it will be comforting. It will create within us, hopefully, the opportunity with grace and love to really look deep within ourselves and to think about what are some of the hard choices we need to make in order to be faithful with what God has given us. We're going to hear a parable about a manager who is dishonest with his master's property or money, if you will. And the passage is a parable. So Jesus, is kind of like making up this story, if you will. But parables are usually, and almost always, Jesus's parables are a story that actually point to something else. And so if we try to take the words literally, or if we try to enter this story and just say, well, this is what it means, we're done, we probably are missing out on a more a truth that is more deeply hidden. I think today's parable about this dishonest manager actually creates more questions than it does answers. And I can imagine that many people walked away from Jesus, kind of as I said last week, like, what is this Jesus talking about? Like, this makes no sense. I don't understand. And instead of engaging more with the questions, maybe leave. And how often that might happen to us. Like, if we don't quite understand this parable, we might just leave it alone and not take the time to ask questions and get deeper. But it isn't easy. And I think today I would remind us that as we read this parable and we contemplate what it means in our lives, that we would hold true or hold tight to the promise that God's grace is for us, that God's grace is given to us. It is not something we earn. And we're going to talk about how we earn money, how we earn and secure a place in God's kingdom for ourselves and for others. But God's grace is free. It is a gift. And so when we enter into a scripture like today's, that is going to be hard, it ain't easy to contemplate, we have to hold onto that promise that we are loved, that we are already forgiven, and that this grace will enable us to be transformed if we are willing to stick with the hard stuff. I think today's scriptures has a lot of implications for us individually, but also as a church and as a community to really do the work that we might find we are called to do in response to the word today. So I look forward to sharing with you more about this parable of the dishonest manager. I look forward to talking to you about money and how we are stewards of what God has entrusted to us. I look forward to playing a game with you in worship today. So even if you're watching from home, you're going to be able to play uh, a game. It's called Kahoot, and it's questions that I created for the game. And so all the instructions are going to be on the screen. So you'll be able to play from home, you'll be able to play in person, and it will just be a fun way for us to learn a little bit more about who we are as United Methodists, who we are as Christians, and what we might learn from our scriptures today. I look forward to seeing you or knowing that you're with us when we worship at 10 a.m. this morning. And I hope that the rest of your day is the very best of your day. And I hope to see you in church. God bless you.